Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and in this session of RestAssured beginner tutorial, we are going to learn how to create a local API server, or in other words, we will create test REST APIs, or we will create our own REST APIs for testing. So this is going to be very easy and very interesting, and do not worry, this is going to be I will go step by step, so you will be able to follow along with me. In the earlier sessions we have already seen how we do get, post, put, patch and delete operations with REST assured. Now in the earlier session we have used a public available REST API. In this session we are going to create our own API, so we have a complete control over everything. So let's get started. And to create some mock APIs we have some options. For example, there is a tool called Mockun. You can use this to create mock APIs, and then there are tools like we have json-server. So if you go to json-server, search on Google and you will get this GitHub page. So using this you can create a full REST API within seconds, and you can see this is the documentation. And to get JSON server or to install it, we just need to run this command, and this is a node package, so we have to run npm install -c JSON server. Now just in case you do not have node installed, you can just go to node.js download, and here is the website nodejs.org, and here you will find options for Windows, Mac, and here is the source code. So you can download for your operating system and you can install Node.js, and then after Node.js is installed you can just run this command on your command line or terminal, which will install JSON server. So I will copy this, and I on my Windows, if you are on Mac you can go to your terminal and run this command. And here you can use -g for installing it globally, or I will just remove the -g option and run this, and this will install JSON server, and in my case it was already installed. So once this is installed you can run this command JSON server --watch db.json. Let me also copy these URLs in the notes, and all these notes will be available to you. So this is the URL and this is the command to install, and then this is the command to start the JSON server. So using this we can start a local server. So if I run this command here, now db.json is a JSON file where we will have our actual API data. Because we do not already have it, it will create a dummy data for us. So if I run this command, you can see it says db.json doesn't seems to exist, so creating db.json with some default data, and it has created some default data. And now you can see your server will be up at localhost 3000. So if you go to your browser and go to localhost 3000, you can see some data here, and this is coming from db.json file. And to check the JSON file you can go to the same location from where you started the JSON server. In my case it is C users administrator. So if I go to my C users administrator, you can see I have this db.json file here, and if I open this in some editor like notepad++, you can see this has created some data for us, and this is a JSON post comments profile, and that is what you can see here, post comments profile. So if I go to localhost 3000 and I go to posts, it will show me all the posts, and then similarly you can see comments and profiles. So let me quickly check that, and yes, so you can see it is showing us the posts. And if I want to check the comments, and you will see the comments. Now let us start from scratch, and I'm just going to delete everything from here, and we will create our own data for testing. So I will remove everything, and now I will create a JSON body for our API. So it starts with a curly brackets and ends with a curly bracket, and then I will create a users array. So I will say users, and colon and a square bracket start and a square bracket end. So this is the users array. I can add data for users here. So let me create, I will start a curly bracket and end a curly bracket. Inside this I will have some data for users. For example, I will say first name, and the syntax is very important in JSON. I am saying Raghav, comma, I will say last name, and I will say Pal, comma, and let us say I will say subject ID. Now I can also do some relations, or um, I can have multiple arrays and provide a relationship. So for example, I will create a subjects array as well later, and I will provide a relationship. For example, I will say subject ID 1, and in the subjects array I will provide the name for subject with ID 1. So as of now I will just say 1 here, and then I will also provide a ID to the user, and I will say this is ID is 1. So that's it. I created one user. Now if you see, if I go to, if I save this file, I save this file, and if I go to localhost 3000 now and run this, you can now see we have a users resource, and if I go to the users resource, I am getting this data which I created in my JSON file. Now I'm going to create one more user, so I will give a comma here and copy this entire thing and paste it here again, and here I will say give some new user. I will say Sarah, and I will say give the last name. I will give the subject ID 2 and the user ID is also 2, and let me create one more user here. I will say Peter Thompson. Here I will give subject ID as I will keep subject ID 1 and user ID will be 3. So now I have created 3 users. If I now go and check the users here, let me first save this, and I have to remove this comma at the end. So the syntax is very important. I will now check here, and you can see we have got these 3 users. Now I will create an array for subjects. So after this end square bracket, I will give a comma here, and then I will say subjects, and here again I will have a square bracket start and stop, and then inside the square bracket I will give some data for subjects. So I will say ID, and for ID 1 I will say name of the subject, and this is automation, and then I will give one more subject details. I will give a comma here and then ID 2, and I will say subject 2 is DEVOPS, and save. Now if I go to the localhost 3000 on my browser, here you can see we have 2 resources, users and subjects, and if I go to / subjects, I am getting this. Now because we have this referencing, or we have this relationship, we have a subject ID here and that should match with the ID of the subject here, I should be able to do the relationship here as well. So let me show you. I will split my screen so that I can show you both the screens. So this is my file, and here if I say localhost 3000 and I say users, I'm getting the users here. If I say subjects, I'm getting the subjects here. Now if I say / subjects and /1, and if I hit enter, I'm getting the subject details with ID 1, and if I say / subjects / 1 and I say users, so it should show me all the users that are enrolled or that have subject 1, that is automation. So if I run this, let me check, and you can see I am getting 2 users, that is Raghav and Peter. And if I change to 2 here, if I say here subjects 2 and then users, and here I am getting a single user, that is Sarah. So I can do like this. I can also say subjects, and I can give some parameter like question mark name equals automation, and if I run this, I am getting the subject which has name automation. So all this I can do. Now let us see how we can do the same operations, and also how we can do post, put, patch and delete operations on this API from RestAssured with RestAssured. So I am going to my project. This is the project we created in our last session. I will go and expand this RestAssured project, and here I will create a new class, and I am going to name this examples. You can name it anything, and say finish. And here I will say I will create a function public void, I will say get or test get, you can name it anything. And to make it a test-ng test, I will give the annotation at test here, and I have to import from test-ng. And now here I will say given. Now I have to do a static import from RestAssured so that I can use these functions directly. So I will say import io dot restassured dot restassured class, and I will do a static import so that I can directly use the functions, and I will say dot star to import everything from this class. And now I can directly use given. And before I do that, let me also set the base URI. So base URI is again coming from RestAssured, and I can say, let me just check this. So I am getting this, so I should also be getting base URI. Yes, we have a base URI here, and this I will set to our base URI, that is localhost 3000 or HTTP localhost 3000. So this is what I will set the base URI to, and then I will say given, and I can directly do a get. So I can say get, because I do not need any parameters or any headers. I will say get, and because I have already set the base URI, I just need to give the rest of the path, which is users, and then I will say then, and I will check the status code. So I will say status code is 200, and let me just very quickly run this and check. If I do a right click, I will say run as test-ng test, and here let us see the output. So everything is fine, it is running fine. I will also say dot log all, so that I will see the response as well in the console. I will run this, and here let us see the response. So in the console you can see I am getting all the details from the users, so everything is working fine. Now this was very simple. Of course, we have seen in earlier sessions that I can set the headers as well. If I want to set the headers, I can say headers, and I can say I can put the headers here, key value. If I want to put the parameters, I can say params, and I can put params like this. Let me show you. If I want to put a parameters on subjects, let us say I will say subjects here, and here I will say param name equals automation. Now this is same like I did here. If I say here / subjects, and then I say question mark name equals automation, so this should only show me the subject details with which has name automation. The same thing I am doing here. I am saying param name equals automation, and then I am saying get the subject's resource, and then I will run this. Let us see. If I run this, I should see only subject automation, and yes, you can see I am getting the data here, and this is all pass. So you can do like this. Now let us come to post. Until now we have just done a done a get on the REST request. Now when we do post, it will actually create a new resource in the file here. So let us try that. I will comment the test annotation so that it does not run this test, and I will create a new function. I will say public void test underscore post, and I will again give the annotation at test here. And now I will say, we have seen in the earlier session that for doing a post we need to provide a body, and for providing a body we can use some JSON library like simple JSON we had used earlier. So I will say JSON object, and this is coming from JSON simple. Just in case you do not know, you can watch the last session where we created this post requests using the maps and JSON objects, and for that we had added the JSON simple library or dependency in our pom.xml. So this is coming from our last session. So now I will just go and do, I will say here JSON object, and I will say request equals new JSON object, and then I can use the request variable to create my request. I will say put, and I can give the key and values here. So for that, let me see, I have to give first name, last name, and subject ID. ID will get auto generated once we create the resource. So I will give first name, last name, and subject ID. So I will say here first name, and the value is, this is the key, and the value I will say is Tom, and then I will say request dot put, I will say request dot put, and I will say last name equals to, let us say, Cooper, and then I have to give a subject ID. I will say subject ID is 1, and that's it. Now I will say, also I will put the base URL or base URI here as well, so that I do not have to put it in the request again. And now I can say given, and you can use all the headers and parameters like we have done earlier. So if you want to use headers and content type and accept like this, you can do that, and then you can just put the body like this. So let me copy this again from our earlier class, and I will just put it here so that it is a little faster. So I can just say here, let me just do it here. I will say content type. So I'm saying that the content type I'm passing is content type dot JSON, and then I can also say I will accept the content type JSON. So here I am just saying that what I'm passing is of JSON type, and what I'm going to accept as a response is also of JSON type. And then if I have any headers, I can put the headers as well, like this. In the earlier session we have seen, if I want to put any headers like this, I can do that, and I will show you here as well. So this is what we can do. Now I have to pass the body, so I will say here body, and I will pass this request that we have generated, and I will also say to JSON string so that it converts into a JSON string, and then I will say then, and the same validations like status code. Now status code should be 201 in case of creation. For a successful post, the status code is 201, and I can also log the request. I will say log the response here, and I will say all. So that's it, and this should create a new resource in our file, and it should be shown here. So let us try this. I will run this and check. So here it is fine, it is running fine, and you can see it passed here, everything is fine, and the result is pass. So if I go to my browser and say users, I should see a new user. So if I say users here, and you can see here, let me just check. If I go here and check here, looks like it has not yet been created. I will check again. So here, okay, so there was a mistake. We did not do a post actually, so we also had to do a post. This was a big mistake. We have to do this when post. So sorry for that. I will say here when. We actually created the entire thing, but we never posted it. So when, and I will say post, and here for post I have to use /users because the base URI is already here. I just need to say /users and dot, and now I will run this and check, and this looks like yes, this time this is done, and the result is pass. And now if I check on my browser and invoke users, you can see a new user is created here. Also if I check my file here, you can see the file is modified. I will say yes, reload it, and you can see a new user has come here. So we are able to do a successful post, and we are able to create a new resource on the server. Similarly, if I want to do a patch or put, I will copy the same function for put and patch. I'll copy this, and I will comment the test annotation so that it does not run this particular function or this particular test, and I will paste it here, new function, and I will say this is patch. Now if you see, in our earlier request it has created a new user and provided the ID 4. Let me just try to patch the last name here or update the last name. So I will just say here last name I want to change to something else. Let us say I want to change the last name to Shepherd, and then here I have to say patch instead of post. I will say patch, and the endpoint is users /4 because we have to patch user with ID 4, and the status code we are expecting is 200. So let us try to run this. I will say run, and let us see, everything is fine. It says it has patched and has updated last name. Let us check this on the server. I will check this, and you can see last name is updated here. Also in the file, if I reload, you can see the last name is updated to Shepherd. So patch is working fine. I will also check for a put. Copy this and comment the test annotation, and then I will paste this function again and change this to put, and now I have to, for put I will use all the details, so I'm copying it from our post request. So I'm copying this data, the body, and I will put this here in our put request, and here instead of patch I will say put, and I will provide the endpoint as users4 because I want to update users4, and here let me change the first name. I will say Mary, and last name I will change to Jane, and that's it. I want to update this, so I'm using a put here, and if I run this now, let us see the output. So this is running fine, and you can see it has updated. If I go on my server on my browser and refresh, so you can see this has changed, and if I go in my file and refresh, this has changed here. So we are able to do put operation as well. Now let us finally delete the resource. So I will create a new function. I will just say delete is straightforward. I will say public void, and I will say test underscore delete, and here I will just say I can give the base URI as it is here, and I will say I can directly use when, and I will say delete, and I will give the endpoint or the source to delete, so I will say users and /4. When we delete this, then we have to check the status code, then I will check the status code should be, it should either be 200 or 204, both should be fine. I can check with 200 first, and that's it. If I run this, let me give the annotation at test, and this should run fine. I will run this now, and yes, this is fine, it is all pass. So this should delete the resource, so this resource should get deleted. If I refresh on the browser, you can see the resource is gone, and if I go on my file, this should get deleted. If I reload, you can see this has gone. So we are able to do all these operations on our created REST API. I hope this was useful. Let me know what you liked in this session in the comment section below, and also let me know what are the things I can improve in the next session, so I will try to work on that. And please share your knowledge with everyone. I hope all of this was very useful. Thank you for watching.